Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to talk about my experience dealing with the garnishment process, responding in the family court. Um, so most of you might be familiar. I got dragged into family court over a restraining order application by an ex-girlfriend I was never married with, lived with, had children with, never had any police history with this person. I never had any domestic issues with this person. Um, I helped this person renovate their home. Their equity went up over $800,000. I got nothing, and you know what? I get dragged through family court, and I get hammered with a $60,000 court order bill, and that was ordered on May 31st, 2024. 3 days after my 40th birthday. Um, so, I get hit with this huge bill. Um, there was zero communication how to pay it. This lawyer and his client run to the Kitchener courthouse not even 90 days later and tell them I refuse to make payments. They screw me over by doing this. And my bank accounts become frozen on September 6, 2024, which my bank accounts are still frozen April 11th, 2025. And David Ekpenyong told his lawyers, said in court, that she will never unfreeze my bank accounts. Here I am, I got robbed in family court, a court I had no business in. I get ordered to pay $60,000. You know what? Fine. At least let me make payments. Don't do this to me. And they did it to me, right? So this video is my experience dealing with responding to a garnishment dispute in the Kitchener Supreme Court, family court. And to be honest, still to this day, I don't even know how to make payments. They've made it impossible for me. I'm truly surprised I'm not homeless right now, and I'm surprised I haven't lost everything because of this family court. A court I had no business ever being in. A court where the applicant withheld a police report for 2 years, admitting I was a tenant, paying rent, and she applied to the landlord-tenant board for an eviction application, which all these documents were withheld for 2 years. Crucial documents. So David Ekpenyong doesn't communicate with me at all. Doesn't give me any instructions. You think a lawyer, 8 years, 9 years, right? You think this was just malicious. I'm not going to sit here and give this guy any excuses. This was just straight up malicious, and this was a dirtbag move. Something that's been brought up to the Law Society. Who refused to do anything. This has been brought up to the courts, and no one seems to be surprised about this, except for me and a few people. So the lawyer doesn't communicate with me. He files a garnishment application with the court, tells them I refuse to make any payments, and which is a bold lie. I've got about 10 emails I'll share with you guys showing that when my bank accounts got frozen in September 2024, while I'm working in Windsor, the best job of my life, which they ruined. David Ekpenyong, his client, this family court, ruined my time out in Windsor, working. I couldn't keep my mind focused on my job. I couldn't keep a job all the time. I had missed work. This was just bullshit. I just wanted to make payments, and these two weasels run to the court and tell them I refuse to make payments when I even showed the courts my attempts. I even pleaded to David Ekpenyong to let me make payments and to please unfreeze my bank accounts, because while I'm working in Windsor, I got to pay for an Airbnb. I got to pay for a lady to take care of my animals, my apartment. I'm paying rent. It was like, this whole garnishment thing just absolutely ruined my time in Windsor, and it just This was the third job I ended up I lost. I had to walk away. I lost over this family court nonsense. So John David Ekpenyong lies to the court. He's lied about 10 times, 12 times. I got proof of them all. I got transcripts. He lies to the courts, and he tells them in an affidavit that I refuse to make payments, and that, but they won't accept the partial payment. I've got emails that they won't accept the payment, and then they're telling the courts I won't pay. And this is why the Law Society needs to step in and do something about this, but they won't. They're protecting this lawyer, and this is one of many incidents. They're protecting him. There was never any instructions how to make payment. My bank accounts have been frozen. This has deeply affected my job and my mental health. This was just cruel. It was inhumane, and it was evil. You know, running to the courts, and just everything they did was just slimy. You know, one thing that no one seems to think about, but if I had kids or I had a mortgage, like, I'd be screwed. The kids would be screwed. I would lose my home. And the courts, the courts failed to simply you think the courts would step in and say, hey, show us some proof that Mr. Dobson refuses to make payments. Show us proof that you've made attempts. They didn't. They didn't do any of that, and they just allowed this application to sit in the courts, and so the garnishment's happening September 2024. Responding to it, they give you 20 days. Or 10 days or 12 days, you got to scramble around to respond to a garnishment, or they could take up to 20%. Spousal support, child support's up to 50%. I'm not in family court for that. I never had a family. I was never married with this person. I rented her basement for 2 months, 3 months before I got evicted from John David Ekpenyong. And again, what lawyer, would do that without, you know what I mean? You got to have straight up rocks in your head to think you can tell your client that you can just go evict somebody without going through the proper channels, the proper tribunals. This Kitchener courthouse, their family court, made it impossible for me to file any filings. And I think it was almost 2 months. It was 6 weeks before my materials got filed because they kept rejecting them. And because what happened was, when this garnishment started with the family court, is the last 4 digits, 4 zeros, it started with an E. The first digit, it was E000. And because I didn't add that in any of my filings, they never told me anything. They would give me these snarky remarks oh, this file isn't in the court, I can't get a lawyer. It was a mess. It was a mess. This whole thing, this whole garnishment disputing experience in the court was just a friggin' shit show mess. This court staff made it nearly impossible for me to file my materials while trying to keep a job. I ended up filing my 29E, my 6B for that, my 29H, and a 6B. We get before, on October 30th, 2024, we get before Justice B. Smith. This judge orders John David Ekpenyong to file his materials, which is Form 29, the application, his cost by Justice Gibson, the final order, the cost endorsement, all by November 6, 2024. John David Ekpenyong never filed any materials at any point. He did not only abide by this judge's endorsement, he never filed any materials after that, which was insane. I got forced to go to a garnishment dispute, which I'll tell you guys right now that I lost. I lost a garnishment dispute with a lawyer against a lawyer who never filed any materials. And because I never filled out Form 13, which is a financial statement, and if you guys who are familiar with that form, or if you see that form is specifically for people who are filling out their financial information, who are about to pay spousal support or child support. I was never in court for that, yet I lost a garnishment dispute because of this form, and I'll get into that in a little bit. This judge, Justice B. Smith, orders me to file my materials on case lines no later than November 8th, 2024, which I did. You know, it's not easy filing materials in a family court as a self-represent litigant, okay? You got to fill out the form. You got to go get it commissioned. You got to come back. You got to serve it. You got to fill out the 6B. You got to go get it commissioned. You got to file it with the court. Hopefully they accept it, and then you got to file it on case lines. And I did that. But leading up to all this, they made it impossible for me. And it was not cool, you know, how they handled that. Meanwhile, they're allowing this lawyer so many... The stuff that these administrators and these courts have allowed Mr. John David Ekpenyong and his client it's not right. How they treated, both myself and them, it's a handicap match every time dealing with this court, to be honest. And again, I have nothing to gain to mislead anyone. I have nothing to gain to bash anyone. I'm just doing these videos. These are like video journals for myself so that I can get this crap off of my chest that I've been dealing with for 3 years. And this is all factual. It's rational. And I'm just getting down to the facts. So John David Ekpenyong didn't file any materials. January 22nd, 2025, we get before Justice Martha Ann Tweedie. So this was the judge that blocked out... This was the judge that filled out their trial schedule endorsement form and put it in a trial. This is the same judge that rejected 2 trial schedule endorsement forms. I'll put up the endorsements. And it wasn't until like November 10th, 2023, she took it upon herself to basically do the counsel's job and fill out their trial schedule endorsement form on their behalf. And then that's when I got forced to go to the trial. But the crazy thing, and one of the crazy things about all this is that although that happened, John David Ekpenyong never filed his trial schedule endorsement form, which I've said before. Rule 17, sub rule 11, clearly states that parties must fill out, serve, and file that form before any trial is scheduled. That was never done. And I was forced to go to a trial that I lost. And I was ordered to pay $60,000. A very reputable judge entertained a fraudulent bill of $160,000 and ultimately ruined my life. You know, giving me this lifetime restraining order against someone who's unhinged, who their lawyer is not all there, is just a friggin' tool to harass me and abuse me. So all this restraining order is, and then on top of that, orders me to pay $60,000, and then a garnishment, freeze my bank accounts because they tell the courts I refuse to pay. Like, come on, this is not right. What I went through, and so this judge, Justice Martha Ann Tweedie, is doing all this. I asked this judge about, what did she block out on that transcript, and she refused to answer. And everybody refuses to answer. No one wants to uncover what Justice Tweedie blocked up. And I think it's very suspicious. And I think it could, whatever she's blocked up and she's refusing, I think it could cost her job. And I think it could cost the reputation of some of these other bodies or colleagues that are covering up this. I'm demanding, and I've already demanded, that those transcripts become unblocked. Because judges are only supposed to judges are only supposed to review transcripts to fix grammar issues, not block out almost 2 pages of transcripts. Like, it's evident there's something very suspicious going on here that everyone thinks is just going to be dismissed, and it needs to be talked about. It needs to be uncovered. So Justice Tweedie refuses to answer what she's blocked. And she comments about John David Ekpenyong's materials not being filed. So here I am at a garnishment dispute from someone who started it, who hasn't even filed any of their materials on case lines. And I lost that garnishment. You know, like, is this, like, what is this? What do you call that? Blocked out transcripts. You know, being forced to answer to a garnishment where the other party has failed to even simply provide any attempts on their part or my part. There was nothing. And this court just allowed them to run this garnishment and not even file any materials. And then Justice Tweedie commented about, me not filling out Form 13, that spousal and child support form that I had no business. They asked me to fill out a form, and then they scolded me, a form that didn't apply to me. John David Ekpenyong tells Justice Tweedie there is an appeal before the Court of Appeal, which was bullshit. There wasn't. He lied. He straight up lied. So then Justice Tweedie's endorsement said that she requested parties to confirm this. And it was confirmed. I wasn't in the Court of Appeal. So this is what I'm talking about. Another lie that John David Ekpenyong said. And he told her that my materials were before the Court of Appeal. And if you listen to the transcripts, he agreed to it. Like, this lawyer honestly has rocks in his head. The amount of perjury that he's got caught doing and they're not doing anything about it, like, it's not right. It's not right that this has happened, and it's happening to me. And if it's happening to me, how many other people out there is this happening to that just doesn't get identified like I am? So on January 24th, Justice Tweedie tells parties to provide evidence in writing, but does not provide how to submit materials, right? So here she is telling people, to provide a response, but doesn't give any instructions how to do it. Like, talk about just screwing with a self-represented person. When we went before Justice Gibson at the family court, and at least he had the decency to say, hey, here's an email, send it to my assistant, Miss Goodwin, and then even Justice Krachenko, he told us, he instructed us to file our materials to the trial coordinator's office, which John David Ekpenyong never did for the Divisional Court of Appeal, and I'm going to be getting into that as well. So these two judges, Justice Gibson and Justice Krachenko, they gave us instructions how to respond. Justice Tweedie didn't. So for me, as a self-represented person, here I am, fill an affidavit, go get it commissioned, serve it to John David Ekpenyong, print out the affidavit of service, go get that commission, upload it. Like, you can't be doing these things working a job. And it's like, I don't understand, like, dragging this out and making people run around like this. Like, why not just say, hey, send my assistant an email? Why make me? All this judge did was make me run around for no reason. When John David Ekpenyong, he can just commission, submit. Like, this is the crap I dealt with. This was more troubling dealings in this court with Justice Tweedie towards me. This is unfair. I'm sorry. Yeah, there was no direction on how to submit the affidavits. January 30th, Justice Tweedie dismisses the complaint because she said she couldn't tell the distress I was under and that I didn't fill out Form 13. The thing is this? I'm sorry, that's a bunch of crap, because at that garnishment dispute on January 22nd, if anyone out there was to order those transcripts, the audio recordings, you guys would hear how much distress I was in, how I lost my shit. I was so upset, and this judge is going to ignorantly put on the endorsement that she couldn't tell if I was truly under distress or not. My bank accounts have been frozen. These guys won't accept a payment plan. You don't like you really need a Form 13 to figure out. You can't imagine how much distress I'm under. So Justice Tweedie dismisses my garnishment dispute and tells me that, yeah, she couldn't tell the distress I was under because I didn't fill out Form 13. She never answered at any point to why she blocked out those transcripts. Again, I had no business ever being in family court, let alone a trial. And it's because of the conduct of Justice Tweedie filling out that trial schedule endorsement form and telling the trial scheduler coordinator's office to schedule a trial. When Ding Dong, John David Ekpenyong, didn't even have the brains to, the judge did his job. You think he'd have the brain power to at least file his materials. He never did. And I'll share that document again, all the court stuff, so it's like, this was straight up crap. And, excuse me, Justice Tweedie, she said on her endorsement numbers 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, G, 17, 18, and 19. I'm going to share it with everyone, what she spoke about. And it was just, I thought that, I'll be honest, I thought this judge would have, allowed me to dispute the garnishment. This was crap, and she dismissed it. So she did it again. She's just hammering me for no reason. How does anybody lose a garnishment dispute against somebody who filed a garnishment application and doesn't submit any materials to case lines? That happened to me. And this is crap, What I had to go through with this court, their administrators, how many times they dismissed it. I think it's in one of my shorts on this YouTube page. You can see all the times they dismissed my garnishment response dispute, so just more beatings I'm taking behind closed doors. I had no business ever being in family court. And here I am with a lifetime restraining order against someone who lives 80 kilometers away, never had any police history with, never married, never had children, never lived with, withheld crucial documents, has been caught lying, committing perjury, submitting fraudulent documents. These two run to the court and tell the courts I refuse to make payments in a garnishment application, yet have provided any evidence to support that. In fact, the opposite has been supplied to these courts. And I've shown that to Justice Tweedie. I'll show you guys my materials, and you'll see what they're doing to me. Like, this is what I got to do now. I got to go public. I got to talk about what I've gone through. This is called freedom of speech, and I'm exercising that right. And John David Ekpenyong, he's trying to muzzle me. He's trying to get this Kitchener courthouse to put me in contempt. You should see this material, inch and a quarter of paperwork, and it's all like I'll share that eventually, but these guys, they will not leave me alone. John David Ekpenyong and his client have not stopped harassing me since September of 2024 with all this court stuff. And if I don't show up to court, you know what they do to people, right? So it's like, now John David Ekpenyong, he's trying to put me in contempt because and ask the courts to violate my charter rights, my freedom of speech. Everything I talk about is honest, is truthful, is factual. I'm not bashing anybody. I try not to anyways. I have nothing to gain from misleading. This is my experience with the family court garnishment dispute. And if any of you are in family court and you're dealing with the garnishment dispute, you're probably in there for spousal support, child support. I'm in there because for a court order, I got robbed in family court, $60,000, and I'm just trying to make payments. And I can't even do that. These two know I've got animals, I've got this, that, I've got bills. And they're suffocating me financially. And This is the problem with the courts. This is an example of how broken and corrupted the courts can be. And it's not right. So, if anyone's out there that needs to respond to a garnishment, or you're going to be dealing with one, I've mentioned some of the forms. I responded with a 29E, 29H, affidavit of services, confirm my attendance, and this is what happens. Like, Kitchener Family Court, Kitchener Superior Court unnecessarily steamrolled me. They sabotaged my name. You go on CanLee, you see all these things now with this person that didn't happen, that the evidence shows opposite. Like, I can't even live my life. I'm stuck in a web of psychotic behavior from psychopaths who are just being enabled to allow all this to happen. And I just want to go back to work. And I can't. I'm going to be on the streets. Because of this friggin' family court. And it's still 3 years. I'm still in family court. I'm just going to end the video there. This is another video. Let's talk about it. Garnishment dispute, garnishment applications in the family court. And if anyone's going through a similar situation and you need some advice, hopefully this video provided some insight. I'm always available. If you guys have any questions, please comment, please share, please subscribe. I'll try to leave my email in my description of these videos. And it's 3 years of hell in family court. Don't even have a family. I was never married. Never lived with the person. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. Honestly, I'm just getting to that point, right? So it's like... So anyways, that's my experience with the garnishment dispute, and thank you guys for watching.